I have a message for Dr. Koroshetz at NIH. You are not doing enough for patients with ME/CFS. Let me tell you about my wife, Kelly. We got married last year. 1 month after our honeymoon, she came down with a flu-like illness. She never recovered. She has been bedridden for the last 12 months, able to sit upright for maybe 15-30 minutes a day. When we leave the house for medical appointments, it's in a wheelchair. I've had to spoon feed her. I've had to physically move her body into more comfortable positions because she's too weak to do it for herself. I've seen her crawl upstairs on all fours. When she can muster the strength to take a shower, she requires a stool. When she took an exercise stress test, it showed she had the cardiovascular strength of a 97-year-old woman. She's 42 years old. Before she got sick, she was a senior executive at a nonprofit organization that fights AIDS. She was 3 classes away from completing her MBA. She was painting, she was traveling, she loved to laugh. I don't think I've heard that laugh in over a year. She often doesn't have the strength to speak in more than a whisper, or even turn her head to look at me when I'm talking. And the medical community has no answers for us. We've left doctor's appointments with Kelly in tears because these doctors are so arrogant, ignorant, incompetent, and useless. In fact, I'm firmly convinced that the progression of this disease could have been slowed, perhaps even prevented, if one of her doctors had just had the sense to warn her about the dangers of overexertion. Instead, they recommended exercise and psychotherapy. And this brings us back to you, Dr. Koroshetz, because a lot of the responsibility for my wife's dire situation lies directly with NIH and CDC. If NIH and CDC hadn't been dicking around for the last 30 years, I bet we'd have some answers right now. And I bet we'd have some doctors who know what they're doing instead of walking their patients off a cliff. I've read in medical journals, I've read that ME/CFS is more debilitating than HIV/AIDS or MS, that it affects millions. And yet, funding for it is on par with hay fever and male pattern baldness. Your lack of urgency is costing people everything. It's costing people their lives. Your recent reply to ME Action's letter was totally unacceptable. They have my full support. We are not going to let you dick around for another 30 years while people like my wife suffer a living death, or in many cases take their lives out of desperation. What we want is a commitment to outcomes rather than never-ending bureaucratic processes. We want a commitment to a timeline. We want funding. We want biomarkers, clinicians, research definitions. In short, what we want is for you to take this disease seriously. What we want is for you to do your fucking job.